Check, 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 check.
This creates a lot of warmth in storytelling sort of way. Good thinking of the cape. I actually was going to wear mine, but then didn't until this week. Now that I see yours. Are you all associated with the church? Did you know what you're doing when you got here?
Nope.
Okay, did you wander about?
Well, we park on the other side and
Yeah, that's what I thought.
waiting
Okay.
to find other
Right.
sight of other people, and then
And then at some point you just had agency and said, let's go out on an adventure and see.
Well, we made it even more difficult is because the other door until tomorrow
Right.
is out of commission. So
That's
today
pretty
was
fun.
even more tricky than usual to find everybody.
Well,
That can't go wrong, because then you just land in dancing class.
yeah, that's
That
the
could be
worst
another
thing
option.
to land in. Yeah, for sure. Well, I had a lovely experience. I have never entered from any other door than the one that was refused
Uh-huh.
that refused me, and so I stood there and felt a measure of anxiety that I had to change something in my life. I had to get into this church in a different way, and then I came to the next door, which was a very serious door. That felt
Seriously locked.
well. I didn't even try it. It had a weight and sobriety to it that was intimidating. So I moved on, and then the next one was two of them.
All right.
So that no chance. But then as soon as I bent the corner, became sparkly. There were lots of cars. It was very inviting. And all this time of coming here, I'm always in the back. That's kind of the front, isn't it? Over there.
Yes,
Yeah.
at the front.
That was a new experience for me, and you all did it too. Was it similar for you? The discovery.
Dark and
Yeah, right. And then there's signs. We're getting closer. Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice way to exit. How is our online community? Are people accessing?
There are 7 people on right now.
That's a good sign. Okay.
Okay, there's 2
Because
people.
a number of them will probably because we had the wrong link up in the online one, and so there will be. I want to give room to people to panic like we did, you know, and then to reset. Good to see you again. Welcome back. Last week, I'll do a little. Are we connected to the 7 people?
Whenever you're ready. Do you want to
I'm
start?
ready. I would love
All right.
to feel them. To feel them with us. And the sound just changed.
I'm just changing my mind.
Oh, that'll do it. Yeah, I got bigger and wider, more powerful. Maybe a little less speaker in the space here. I think we're a cozy bunch. We're a happy few, so I think we'll be okay. So as our community worldwide joins us slowly, and I apologize for putting the wrong link in initially. It's a thing that we do in the online life, and I'm hoping you're all recovering quickly, and we're going to give the people who are present as well as those online an extra moment to join us. As I was saying to this community over here, maybe still a little speakery in the space, is that I am not a delicate storyteller. I like to respond to whatever's happening, so don't feel at any point that anyone needs to be corralled. We can all be ourselves in this space. And I might even include them in the story. You never know. So last week, we gathered here, and it was Stories of Light. And I told a story that I don't think there's any Sparkle Stories folk here today. I think we're mostly local. Is that feel right? Oh, great. Okay, great. So you may have encountered a story called the Cooper and the White Winter Oak. Okay, well, you might want to check it out. That's what I told last week. And it was a story that likened light to gratitude. And so we had a little section in the middle where we got to really sit with things that we're thankful for And everybody really was able to quickly access a variety of things that they're happy to have in their life. And so I told the story, then we had the moment of gratitude, and then we widened our attention and took in this space, which you're probably doing, and noticing paintings and being curious about shapes and sizes. I need my storytellers. Come on in. Come to the front if you're comfortable. Good to see you. Nice to see you. Yes, this is what we do. The only one who bowed, though. No one else has bowed yet, but I'm glad to see. And then we created a story, which actually was launched by this storyteller right here, about a boy named Jason, a young man named Jason, a long, long time ago. And we found gratitude in the most remarkable place, up in a tall mountain that resembled a volcano, and found a company of players that brought gratitude into a community of need. It was a magical experience. Today will be very different, and next week will be very different. This is what we'll do today. I'm going to light that candle in just a moment, and you'll all be able to experience the warmth that candle delivers. And I'll tell a story called The Candleberry Elf. Not sure if that's familiar to anyone, but that's a story that that came to me probably 15 years ago. And it is a story that includes stillness, which does not mean that you need to be still, but you might accidentally become still. It's a thing that can happen with this story. But if you find yourself still, I invite you to experience a second part of that, which is when you really are still and your shoulders drop and you relax into this space, to this moment, what can happen is you might start to feel warm. And so in this story that I'm going to tell, you will hear stillness and warmth. And then, as a community, we're going to experience that warmth outside. Outside, you may ask, it's cold out there. Yes, we're going to take some light, and there are candles that you'll have, and we're going to walk outside where there is more light. And we'll do like we did last week and take in this space, but we're going to go outside and take in the magic of this little corner of Winchester. And you'll see a few lights, and you'll also see that there's a labyrinth out there. We might not be able to see specifically, but we can wander about the labyrinth. We'll do this for, 10 minutes at the most. But you'll be paying attention, and then we'll come back in and we'll make a story together like we did last week. I have no idea what the story is going to be, but there'll be a new thing this week where I will be using this. This is connected to 4 other storytellers. I teach people how to tell stories, mostly children, but I have a group of adults that I've been working with for a while, and 4 of them are waiting. One is in Australia. One is in California, one is in Texas, and one is in Virginia. And they are all listening to the story right now. They might be, you never know. But definitely Lydia in Australia. It's summertime there, so they have that going. And so if I feel that they want to participate in the story, I might read what they have to say. And they say yay. All right, so yay has already happened. Hello, storytellers. Hello, storytellers. It occurs to me they got the wrong link too. So I'm going to take the one that I got from, and we're going to copy that And I'm going to say this one.
While David's doing that, I will just mention that we have right now three and potentially four artist studios up on the third floor, and two of the artists up there, Jenny Olson and Tracy Vartanigian Burhans, are the two artists that you see displayed here that we did for the Open Studios in Winchester a couple weeks ago. So.
That's Will. He's the minister of this in this church here. And if you come next week, you might be able to hear Will play. Maybe even sing. We don't know yet. We'll have to see. The way in which your posture changed, maybe we won't. But yeah. but maybe play. Yeah, great. And everyone here is welcome at any point, everyone, to get up and walk around. That's completely okay. You can get up and walk around. You can wander about all you wish. If my attention goes to you, I might factor, it's good to see you. I just noticed you. Hi, Leah. It's really nice to see you. So I said that I work with children and teach them storytellers. There's three right there that are storytellers. So I'm going to light the candle now. I think it's story time, don't you think? And then we'll get a little taste of outside and bringing our own light as our surroundings get darker and darker this time of year. In the backyard, next to a mock orange bush and a huckleberry, there was a candleberry bush. The candleberry bush was planted there by an older woman who planted it there because she had heard that it attracts birds and she liked birds. So she planted that bush as well as a number of other trees and bushes and plants in hopes to attract those birds and to give them something to eat. And it worked. The birds came every year, more and more birds. And they would eat the berries, they would eat the seeds, they would dine on the nectar. However, strangely, they never touched the candleberries. The piled fruit looks a little bit like a raspberry, but a little fatter, would remain on the bush into the autumn. The leaves would turn red and fall, the berries would stay. But quite remarkably, every year, around the same time, usually during the full moon in November, they would disappear. They were all gone. And it happened every year. It was a mystery to the old woman and her husband, the old man that lived there. Well, what would happen is this. In this garden, as in all gardens and wherever there is anything natural growing, there is a community of fairies. There are so many fairies in the world, so many different kinds of fairies, and each of those fairies will tend to any number of the plants there. And there is a fairy for the mock orange, a fairy for the hyacinth, a fairy for the oak tree, a fairy for each of the birds that were flying about. It's how the natural world works together, and the fairies communicate with each other, and it's a very busy place, a garden. Now, in this time of the year, it appears, when you're looking out the window, that not much is happening in the garden. Leaves have fallen, it's gotten cold, ground starts to harden. It's not like the summer where there are butterflies and birds and all sorts of activity. However, the truth is it's actually quite busy. the fairies are preparing. They have time to look ahead to what's coming in the spring. The gnomes under the ground are moving things around, working on the roots of the bushes and trees and the flowers. And it's a wonderfully busy community time for the fairy world. And every year the old woman would look out and see the backyard being apparently still. And that stillness would remain until a special time in their household that happened right around the winter solstice. And what would happen is that she and her husband, the old man, would make a wreath in the window made of pine boughs and put candles. And they would light the candles, and they would light candles in the windows. And they would do this through the whole season of December. They celebrated Advent, and so they would place these candles around and light them ceremoniously at certain times of the week. And as they got closer to the winter solstice, they would light a very special candle that was right in the middle of the wreath. This happened every year. And they would celebrate and look out and see the stillness when there was actually something happening magical outside as well. In that stillness, there was lots of busy little ones moving about, preparing for the winter solstice, which was an extremely unique time for the fairy world. And now I want to introduce you to the Candleberry Elf. Here's what happened to those berries. Every year, right around the time of the full moon, the Candleberry Elf in the middle of the night would harvest all the candleberries, would bring them over to his workshop. And in his workshop, down under the ground, he would begin to turn those berries into candles, because candleberries have a great deal of wax in them. If you were to eat a candleberry off of the bush, it would be like chewing sour wax. However, that wax, when separated from the fruit, was very useful in making candles. People actually did that as well. And so the Candleberry Elf would take a number of those berries, boil the berries in a special pot lit with a magical blue flame, until it became a mash, and then would take the pot, place it outside to cool. The wax would come to the surface, harden, take out the disc of wax, put it in the pile, take the mash of the leftover fruit, put that out for the birds. The birds all would come and flock and eat the mash. On to the next batch, over and over and over, until the Candleberry Elf had enough wax to begin to create candles. The workshop was called a chandlery. It's where you make candles. And would take cottonwood fiber, create a little wick, like a little thread, and then take that thread, heat up the wax, and dip it into the wax over and over until it would make a candleberry candle that was actually this color, this color blue, just like that, one after the other, and would prepare all of these candles for the winter solstice. And on that night, would sit and look to one place, which was that window where the old woman would light the special candle. And as soon as she did that, he would take all of his candles and he'd go around and light them and hand them to all the other fairies that were around, one at a time. Everyone would get a candle, and they would all light it and celebrate together. That longest night, the darkest night of the year, they would offer up their light from these candles. It was almost a holy experience for the fairies. And they all looked forward to that. They couldn't wait till the winter solstice where they could light these candles and celebrate the light together. This happened every year until one year, the Candleberry Elf waited in that spot, looking to the window, very still. Sunset. No light. Waited. Fairies would come by. Can we have our candles? Are we doing the celebration? Can we light the candles? Hold in a moment. Waiting. No old woman, no light. No, the candle remained unlit. It got later and later until the Candleberry Elf had to make a decision. Do I go ahead and start the celebration without having seen the candle lit by the old woman in the house? And decided, instead, I'm going to go to the house. I want to see what's happening. I'm just curious. And so the Candleberry Elf took the bundle of candles and went to the house and was able to actually walk up and climb up a vine that was along the side of the door and was able to actually peek in one of the small lights of the door to see that indeed there was a fire. There was a low light inside. None of the candles had been lit, but he saw something curious. He saw, facing the fire, was a bed. And in the bed was the old man. And next to the bed was the old woman who was tending to him, daubing his forehead. And he realized that the old man was sick, and that the old woman was caring for her husband. And this obviously was why she hadn't lit the candles. She was busy taking care of her husband. And so he understood what the source of it was now. The mystery was no longer a mystery. He knew what was happening. But instead of going back to his chandlery and distributing the candles as he often did every year, he found himself going in the cat door and went into the house and crept very quietly along the edge of the wall to see the old woman, indeed caring for her husband, humming softly, both of them very still. And he got an idea. What if I lit some of the candles here? And this filled him with happiness and warmth and excitement, and he decided, yes, I'm going to do that. And he went over and went into one window, climbed up, put a candle, lit it. Went over to another window, put a candle, lit it, one after another, lighting candles around the space until came to the spot where the old man was facing and wanted to have one candle in particular right where the old man could see, and lit the candle and stood next to it and stood very still, looking at the old man for quite some time, until the old man's eyes opened and smiled as the old man looked directly at the Candleberry Elf. Now, the old woman turned around and was wondering what the old man was smiling at. She couldn't see the elf, but clearly the old man could. And the old man started to laugh. And then the two of them talked and laughed together. And the Candleberry Elf knew it was time for him to go. So he went back down, went out the cat door, and was about to go back to his chandlery and realized, I don't have any more candles. I put them all inside the house. The other fairies are going to be so disappointed. What shall I do? And so he was figuring out what he was going to tell them all. And as he was walking back, he got closer to the garden and saw lights, little lights, all over the garden. What was happening? And then his eyes adjusted and he could see that each of these lights was one of his fairy friends. And it was coming from their heart. They had created, each of them, a fairy light that they were offering back to their friend, the Candleberry Elf, knowing full well where he had been and where those candles went. And so the Candleberry Elf felt his full community of friends, celebrated the winter solstice with them, not with the candles that he created, but the warmth from their hearts out of friendship and celebration all together. So there's different ways to be still. You could be still like this. You could be still like this. That's actually a kind of stillness. But let's all experience stillness in our own way, and then just notice the temperature, just for a moment. That's good. Yeah. I know, right? And that's what will happen. Our attention will go to where it needs to go. And some noticed these candles here. Some noticed these candles here. Some noticed those lights. Some noticed this light. But now each of you is going to get a candle. The candles are in a container over here, and you'll be handed a candle, and we're all going to go outside. You don't have to stay outside. You can stay outside as long as you'd like, but I'm going to come back in about 6 or 7 minutes and invite you all to join me in telling a story. What you can do outside is find a place to experience 1 second, 2 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes of stillness. However you want to be still. And just notice your body. What does it feel like? And then, just like was demonstrated, notice where your attention goes. So their attention went to the candles. Your attention might go someplace else. So just notice where your attention goes and bring that back in for our group storytelling. Is that one of the candles? Do they actually leap? Okay, all right. It looked like it did. So I was wondering I should give them advance notice if they tended to leap out of hands. Okay, great. So I'll go first, and then I would love for you to follow me out. Oh, yes, thank you. Hello, people online from around the world. You're going to do it too. So what you'll do, you don't need a candle, but I'd like you to go outside wherever you are. And come back in about 5-6 minutes, but do the same thing. Go outside, experience stillness, notice where your attention goes, bring that back inside, and then we'll have an opportunity for you to participate in the story as well. And in my back pocket, I'll have my 4 storytellers that are around the world that may be participating as well. Okay? Great. All right, I've already chosen my captains, so I'll be looking to you to gather people and bring them in. It's good to see you. How's it going, Caleb? see if our storytellers are here yet. Okay. So I'm going to put this here so it can get my attention. Yeah, do some exploring. I think that's a good idea. So Sky and Rebecca and Lydia and Becky, and Joya, and those of you who are streaming on the YouTube page, I would love for you to add a comment around what caught your attention outside while we talk about the same. So if you can recall what it was like outside, the temperature, what you noticed, what sort of feeling might have been there. What did you notice? What did you see? Shoo, shoo, shoo. What did you notice outside? The lake? I noticed the lake as well. Can you describe it for me, what you saw? Yeah, the lake caught my attention as well. Did you happen to see that one light, that one really bright light on the lake? Yeah, that's where my eyes went. It might have been similar. What did you see outside? Do you remember? Oh, you were inside. Good. What did you notice inside?
He noticed an echo in here.
I'm noticing an echo in here. Yes. So we have a lake. I added the light part. And then an echo inside this space. We noticed similar things. What else? What else where did your attention go? What did you notice?
I saw like a little like kind of like that almost with bricks around it.
Really? So it was a smaller body of water? I didn't see that. Oh wow. Okay. And you noticed that as well? That's small? Oh, I like that image very much. So it was round and it had stones around it? Kind of like a well? Koi fish pond? Okay, nice. See, what's really interesting is that now our imagination shifted a little bit and put fish there. But a moment ago, it could have been this deep, dark well that who knows how deep it was. Leaves, yes. Did anyone else notice the trees? My eyes kept going up, and I was noticing the bare trees with just a few leaves. What's happening around the world?
Someone noticed a brightly shining star in the center of the dark, cold sky.
Yeah.
Someone
that
else
single
noticed
light.
the wind batting the flame around like the fire fairies were playing with it.
Okay, nice. The wind. And did anybody else have the experience of that single light? That really took my attention. What we saw, well, the light on the water. The light up above. Anyone catch that? Yep, couple people nodding. You saw that as well. Excellent. What else? Where did your attention go? Was there a sound? Yes.
I noticed the light coming from the stained glass windows.
Oh, nice. From inside. And they were shining out, and you noticed that. I wish I had seen that. So I'm going to use my imagination to imagine what that looked like. Do you recall any particular colors? That's what I was picturing, red and gold. Excellent. And did you see any images in it? It probably was too hard to see. Okay, figures of people that were there. And any of the grown-ups? Whoever identifies as such? Yeah.
There were a bit fewer stars in the sky.
Okay. And did you happen to catch... Oh, that was someone online. Where they were, they saw the single star up in there. Yes. I was picturing that happening here. So similar. Fewer stars that were there. Excellent. So already we're starting to create a story together. There's some images that are bubbling up. And like last week, I want to give room to someone if they want to start the story. Good. Our storytellers are beginning to chime in. If any of them would like to start the story, you can send me that through this magical device, and I'll start the story with your words and we'll see where it goes. So let's have a moment of our own individual stillness. Did you want to say something? Did you see something? Okay. You were noticing something though, weren't you? Yes, I really appreciate that. Yeah. That was a nice moment that you just offered me. Okay. All right. Interestingly enough, the story is going to start with feet. The storyteller in Texas noticed feet. Can you hear them? I can hear them as well. And there was a very tired woman that had just come home from work. Her feet were incredibly heavy as she stepped into her house, took her keys, and put them on the table. And it was at that point that she could hear the pitter-patter of the children coming down the stairs, coming to greet her. And even though she was very tired from the work she had done that day, and even though all she wanted to do was to sit still in the silence of the night, the moment that she saw her children coming towards her, she was filled with energy and she scooped them up and hugged them close. And when she let go, one of her children wanted to show her something. He took her hand and led her over to a window and said, "Mom, look, it's been this way the whole time you were gone. We've been looking out the window. Look at the light." The mother looked out and figured that she would see what she always saw, which was in the distance, there was a park, and there was a basketball court that was there, and there was a single light that lit the basketball court. And so she walked over to see, but instead of seeing that light, she noticed her child was pointing up, and up there was a different light. It was very bright, but it was red and gold. The light that was up there was red and gold, and she thought, oh, it's an airplane. It's the lights coming from the airplane. But it didn't move. It just shone up above. A single bright light shone and spread out in all directions, shafts of gold, red, and bright white. And she stood there for the longest time, just taking in this mysterious, magical light that was up above, when her other child came over. And the other child walked over and said, "I want to show you something now, but it's outside." The weight returned. The heaviness returned. The tiredness returned. "I don't want to go outside," thought the woman. "This is not what I want to do at this point." But again, she took a deep breath in and said, "Okay." And she went and put her coat back on, helped her children put their coats on, and they were trembling with excitement. They couldn't wait to show her. It apparently had been a magical night that evening while she was away. And so they led her outside into the cold. The wind on their face. She immediately felt her hands. And she reached down and took both of her children's hands, and they led her over to the side of the house. Now, this was where they looked out on the park that was across the street, where the light that shone the basketball court, and where moments ago they saw the bright light up above. But when they arrived on that side of the house, the light was gone. She looked around and tried to see where it was and wondered, was I seeing a reflection from something? Maybe it was the fire. Maybe she was seeing the reflection of the fire on the window. That must have been it. But then the child said, it's over here. And they walked over to the edge of the lawn, and the child pointed to a house that was kitty corner to the park and said, what's that? And they all looked over there, and at first she didn't see anything. She just looked over and saw the house as it was always there. And then she looked down in the front yard. And whether it was the basketball light that was coming from the park or maybe a street light, there was a shimmering round circle in the front lawn. And she looked at it and said, what is that? And they said, we don't know. And so she decided, well, let's go get a closer look. And so the three of them walked carefully across the street. There were no cars that night. And they came over to the edge of their neighbor's lawn. Now, this was a neighbor that hadn't done any holiday decorating or anything like that. It was never known to do any kind of celebration. She knew the man that lived there, and he was nice enough, but they never really interacted much. So it would have been odd for him to create some sort of magical holiday ornament in the front. But as they got closer, the more that they could see, it was all sparkling. It was a perfectly round, shimmering, almost like a pool of light. And at the edge of this pool were a pair of boots. Shimmering pool of sparkling lights, a single pair of boots were sitting there as if they were waiting for them to arrive. And they looked at this pair of boots, and they looked up at the house. The house was dark. There didn't even seem to be anyone there, and if the man was there, he was asleep. And they looked at the boots, and she did something that she normally wouldn't do. This was not her yard. That was not her shimmering pool of lights. She had to see the boots, and so she stepped up onto the lawn, and the children said, Mom, what are you doing? She said, I'm just going to look. And came over to the boots, and they looked just like boots she had when she was young. This was strange. She looked at these boots, and they looked just like her favorite boots when she was very young. She was actually from a place far to the north where it got very cold, and these were thick lined with fur on the inside. They were the most comfortable, incredible boots she ever had in her whole life, and she was never able to replace them, was never able to find adult versions of them that she could slip on. They were like wearing a couch. They were like slipping your feet into a quilt that was next to a warm fire. They were the most comfortable things in the world. And as she had that memory, her children said, Mom. And she opened her eyes. The boots were gone. They were on her feet. The boots were on her feet. And she knew she should take the boots off. They weren't her boots, but they were her boots. They fit perfectly. They were so soft, and they filled her with such warmth and comfort and delight and energy and an idea. Would you like to go on an adventure? She asked. And the children looked at her and said, yes, a nighttime magical adventure, let's go. And the mother took them by the hands, and they began to skip. Now, as they skipped down the street, I wonder, what did they see? Storytellers around the world, you can tell us on the comments, or my 4 storytellers that are positioned perfectly in Australia and Texas and California and Virginia, what did the 3 of them see? Oh, good. Okay. Leah is going to follow her attention and see what's there, because there are lots of options, and we can't say all the options, so instead, we follow our attention, just like you did before when you saw the candles. We follow our attention, and that's always the right one.
What's that say? Okay. Do you want to say a couple of those?
A glass apple,
A glass apple,
Say this one too.
a set of magic
Magic.
glass stairs.
Set of magic glass stairs.
was the apple a part of that as well?
Came right after that.
Okay, great. I like a magical set of stairs and a glass apple. Let's see how those two come together. So, as they were walking down the road, the first few flakes of snow began to fall, and their attention went up, and they opened their mouths, and they felt the flakes fall on their faces, and they were just laughing and having such a wonderful time. And she couldn't get over how comfortable these boots were. She just felt like she could run up and down the road. After a very long day at work, she had so much energy. And as they stepped forward, they saw at the end of the road, which was actually an end. It teed on another road, and this was the end of Elm Street, and on this one was Waller. And they came to the end of Elm Street, and it seemed to keep going. It had never kept going before. That was a line of trees. But in this instance, they stood and witnessed a set of stairs. And on either side of the stairs were these silky white trees that seemed to be almost like made of clouds that would reach branches out and disappear, reach branches out and disappear. And so they didn't doubt what was happening and crossed Waller Street to the other side and came to the stairs. And they stood before the stairs, looked at each other, and said, "Let's go." And they took the first step. And the world around them began to change just a little bit. The trees grew taller, more colorful. Different kinds of trees surrounded them. They took another step. Birds began to fly. They took another step. Butterflies. They took another step. And from the trees came pears and apples and peaches and plums, and the children bit into them and laughed at the sweetness. And when they came to the top, they looked out, and they were at the edge of a vast lake. And they stood there with fruit juice dripping off of their chins, feeling such magical and delight that they felt something calling behind them. It wasn't like a voice. It wasn't actually even very loud, but they felt something behind them trying to get their attention. And they turned around and saw their house. But it looked different now. That red and gold light that they had seen earlier was now coming from within their house. and every single window seemed decorated with fruit and trees and fairies and beautiful stained glass windows, red and gold shining out, so beautifully warm. And they took one last look at the lake and stepped down and stood before their house. The house that they came in and out every single day, the house that she returned to every day from work, that the children came home to from school, that they got up early and went to school, went on errands to the grocery store, took baths, made breakfast, did all of those normal things, now seemed like a castle. And more magical than walking up the set of stairs, more magical than tasting the fruit, more magical than witnessing the lake that came from nowhere or that circle of shimmering light in their neighbor's lawn. They stepped into their house, and it felt holy. It felt unlike any place that they'd ever been before. And they knew that they didn't need at that moment to do anything except be together here. Let's let that stillness last just a little bit longer. Well, my hope for you all, my wish for you all is for you to return to your home, wherever you're going to be tonight, and to look around and notice the ways in which that place is unlike any place in the whole world. See the castle that is your home and enjoy the magic that's in that space waiting for you. Maybe I'll see some of you next week when Will's going to sing. And I'll have another story for you then. Thank you for coming. It was lovely being with you.
I do want to say that anyone at any time you're always welcome to go into the garden.
Oh boy, yeah.
And hang out there. It's beautiful during the day and at different seasons, so it's open to anyone.
I definitely would if I lived in town. I'd be here every day. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for being here. Oh, underneath it is the full thing.